About 10 years ago, Mercedes took its very dull, very boring, very sober C-Class, very good C-Class, but all of those other things too, and dropped a whopping great V8 into it, thereby creating the C63.
This is the W205, the second generation of the C63. It's been with us for just on 4 years now, so it was time for a facelift. And as facelifts go, it's fairly subtle. This is the Panamericana grille from the wild AMG GT, with the old grille heading south to the C43. The headlights are what Mercedes call intelligent multi-beam LED, and they work a treat. This very tasty set of forged 19-inch alloys are wrapped in sticky Michelins, and I reckon they look pretty good. Behind them is a set of 390mm front brake discs. Mercedes cheekily call these composite, but the inner ring is aluminium and the outer is steel. Out the back you'll see very subtle changes, an AMG performance exhaust, but an otherwise clean rump.
Under the bonnet is Mercedes' always brilliant 4-litre twin-turbo V8 shared with a whole bunch of fast cars. Now, in this one, it's got 375 kilowatts and 700 newton meters of torque. Not a kilowatt more, not a newton meter more, didn't need it. It's plenty of power. What has changed is the gearbox. It's now a 9-speed multi-clutch transmission. Now, it's not a dual-clutch transmission. It's only got one input shaft, and the clutches sit in an oil bath. Now, what Mercedes tells me is that that means it can shift faster, but it also behaves more like a torque converter automatic when you're in traffic. And I've got to say, if you're not thinking about it, it does feel just like a normal automatic, but with really fast shifts.
Amusingly, it also has stop-start. I don't think I've ever heard a C63 stop at the lights. Perhaps the only real problem with the original W205 was the ride. It was pretty hard. With a new suspension tune, AMG is hoping to broaden the car's appeal a bit. Customers tend to like straight spines and having more money for fuel instead of orthopaedic surgeons. It's AMG's way of looking after owners.
As for the interior itself, it's beautifully put together, but it is not beautiful. This is from a time when Mercedes weren't making particularly attractive interiors. The new E, the new A, the new S, much better looking, but as I say, beautifully built and will probably outlast you. And really, I do not like this new clock. It's clocks in cars, no. There are these two new screens. So this is the media screen, beautiful, crisp, lovely to look at, fairly easy to use with the command system. I've never really been a fan of that, but it works and it's fine. It even has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. New steering wheel is great, I really like this, and it's got this funky new Ferrari style Manettino thing. So you twist it and you change the driving modes. That's very cool. And then on the other side, you've got these little shortcut buttons where you can change bits inside the mode once you've selected it. I really like that, that's really cool. It's a nice, just a nice extra piece of kit to make the car feel really sporty.
The new electronic dash also has a range of nerdy telemetry options, which is a good laugh if you're planning on going on track days or seeing how many Gs you pull braking in traffic.
So one of the key things about this car is that it's comfortable. You get in, anyone can drive it. My mum could drive it. My wife will love this car actually. It's got a V8, she's a sucker for V8s, but she'll get in and it won't feel at all intimidating. And that's, you know, that's something a lot of cars do, but it's not something that AMG's always done. So that's what I really like, just to get going. And comfort mode, while this car's always going to be noisy, comfort mode is really nice. It's very compliant, the suspension isn't too firm. It's not pillowy, it's not like it's running on air suspension, but it's not too firm. And of course the engine goes straight up to 9th gear and it does all that, so it's just a normal car. But start twisting the knob a little bit, the car wakes up, the suspension firms up, the steering gets a little bit more feel through it, and the throttle map is just a bit more, it's a bit more grrr, is what it is. And this transmission, it's really good. I really like it. It feels like a torque converter auto when you're just pottering around, but when you really get stuck in, and it's something you're going to do a lot in this car because it's absolutely worth it for the theatrics. When you get stuck in, the shifts are really fast, but not jolting. They don't push you around. They don't interrupt the car's flow of power while you're mid-corner. And that's pretty good considering that it is not a twin clutch or not a torque converter, but it still stays smooth even when you're really on it. I like that. That's cool. What don't I like? It's pretty thirsty. I mean, yeah, it's got a lot of power and all that, but it really does drink a lot, even when you're out on the highway, which I was a little bit surprised at, actually. It does have stop-start in town, and of course, when we're doing these drives, we're doing a specific kind of driving, which does mean we'll use a bit more than normal. But yesterday on the drive out here, we were being held up by traffic. It was wet, we weren't mucking around, and it did still use quite a bit of fuel. Apart from that, I mean, it's a difficult car to fault. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the interior, but that's very subjective. I think it looks great. I think it sounds great. It really does sound great. The theatrics of the exhaust, they're just wonderful. They're maybe not so wonderful when someone's driving one of these around your suburb at 3 o'clock in the morning, popping and banging and roaring, but that's what really sets this car apart, particularly from either Audi or RSs or BMW M cars. It's just got so much character, both in the way it drives, because it's quite happy to squirm around and carry on and make you feel like you're a bit heroic, and in the way the engine is so vocal. It's really quite childish, but it's wonderful. Yeah, this is a pretty good car. The great thing about the C63 update is it wasn't driven by some incredible need to fix a flawed platform, or customers had complained it didn't have this or that. It was great out of the box, and this is just a bit greater. There's no more power, there's no more torque, there's only a few tweaks to the chassis. It hardly looks any different, but it's fast. It can be loud and obnoxious if you want it to be, but can also be quiet, composed, and very easy to live with. I reckon it's pretty close to the perfect muscle sedan.